Hello all. I'm starting this just a couple of minutes early because we're hopefully simultaneously broadcasting this we're broadcasting this from my fan page and hopefully simultaneously going into the group, Reincarnation, Past Lives, and the Afterlife. So this is a bit of an experiment tonight. Just wanted to make sure that this was all getting done. So just give it a couple of minutes and then we'll be able to rock and roll. Okay, I think everybody's here who's going to be here is just about 6 o'clock Pacific time where I am. So let's begin. An old man was eating at a truck stop when three rough-looking bikers walked in. As they passed the old man, the first biker pushed his cigarette into the old man's mashed potatoes, then laughed and took a seat at the counter. The second biker picked up the old man's coffee and spit in it. The third biker turned over the old man's apple pie before joining the others at the counter. Without saying a word to the laughing bikers, the old man put his money down, got up, and calmly left the diner. One of the bikers said to the waitress, "Not much of a man, is he?" The waitress looked at the biker and said to him, "Apparently he's not much of a truck driver either. He just backed his big rig over three motorcycles." Now that's the best example of karma that I can think of. It can be so delightful at times, can't it? And it's also something you can't ignore in any discussion of reincarnation. There definitely is no shortage of opinions, beliefs, and theories surrounding the subject of karma. Hi, this is Dr. Bruce welcoming you to the Spiritual Hitchhiker's Practical Guide to the Afterlife and Beyond. Now, the topic of tonight's show is the Conundrum of Karma. And what a conundrum it is. Webster defines the word conundrum as an intricate and difficult problem, a question or problem having only a conjectural answer. And you know, that definition is a perfect description of karma. Every time I or one of the members do a post about the subject in the group, it gets a ton of comments, more than any other topic. Now, in my book, Your Journey Was Never Meant to End, Compelling Case for Reincarnation, I titled the chapter in which I discussed the subject of karma, The Complexities of Karma. And complex is an understatement. Some even call karma a big con job. Now, why would people call it that? You'll have to stay tuned to find out. Intrinsic to our discussion of karma is an understanding of the concept of karma itself. And herein lies a significant problem because there really is no clear consensus on the subject. There's no shortage of opinions, beliefs, and theories surrounding the subject of karma. Now, I hope you know by now that in whatever I do, whether it be lives, my posts, my lectures, my trainings, my intention is never, and I mean never, to dogmatize, pontificate, or attempt to indoctrinate you in any kind of ideology. And this includes the nature of karma. But that doesn't mean we can't speculate and, if need be, debate. And reincarnation, in general, for that matter, and theorists and researchers in the field do not agree upon. There does seem to be a general agreement that what's been put into motion in the past has effects in the present. So what follows is just one interpretation. Take from it what you will. A cornerstone in both Buddhist and Hindu philosophies operates on the principle of cause and effect. It's like the universe's most meticulous accountant, keeping a ledger of all actions, good and bad. The belief is that every action we take influences our future, not just in this life, but in future reincarnations as well. It's a self-regulating mechanism encouraging moral behavior through the promise of future rewards or consequences. The origins of karma can be traced back to the ancient scriptures of Hinduism, the Vedas, and was later integrated into Buddhism by the Buddha, who reinterpreted and expanded upon these ideas in the 6th to 4th centuries BC. Now, on the flip side, the Christian concept of retributive judgment, particularly emphasized in the New Testament, is more about the final judgment by God. It's the ultimate review session where one's actions are evaluated. But the focus is on salvation through faith in Jesus Christ and repentance for one's sins. This concept suggests a more direct intervention by a divine judge rather than the impersonal, automatic mechanism of karma. The origins of this idea can be found in early Christian teachings, with roots in Jewish traditions and further developed by early church fathers. While both concepts aim to promote moral behavior and accountability for one's actions, karma is more about the natural consequences of one's actions playing out over time, whereas the Christian concept involves a final judgment, a divine judgment. Karma suggests a continuous cycle of rebirths until one achieves enlightenment, whereas Christianity offers the hope of eternal life in heaven, or the risk of the fire and brimstone of eternal damnation based on one's faith and actions in a single lifetime. In essence, while both philosophies seek to guide human behavior towards the goal, towards the good rather, they offer different mechanisms and end goals. One is a self-regulating cycle of cause and effect, spanning multiple lifetimes, and the other is, in my opinion, a fear-based divine judgment offering redemption and eternal life, or hellfire and eternal damnation. Actually, the doctrines of eternal damnation in heaven and eternal torment in hell weren't widely held views for the first 5 centuries of Christianity, and their adoption as tenets of the church seemed to coincide with the rejection by the church fathers of the concept of reincarnation. That's around the time of the Fifth Ecumenical Council in 553 AD, and was primarily spearheaded by the Roman Emperor Justinian, and some say his wife was behind it too, for what were apparently political and economic reasons. Now that would be a whole separate episode, but I do devote a chapter on it in my book, Your Journey Was Never Meant to End. Karma means action. It's the principle of cause and effect. Taken simply, it means that for every action there is a consequence. Example, say bad words in front of your parents and you'll get your mouth washed out with soap. At least I did. Drive your car 80 miles an hour in a 55 mile an hour zone while thumbing your nose at the cop you just passed, you'll get a ticket. Nothing really magical, mystical, or even very spiritual about that. Remember Newton's third law of motion? For every action, there's an equal and an opposite reaction. The classic concept of karma holds that reincarnation is an evolving process of physical exploration for the perfection of the soul, a system of justice and balance. In this system, we learn needed lessons through karma, or cause and effect. And we carry this intuitive knowledge with us through successive incarnations. Each entity is born into each life with a level of awareness established in their past lives. How the lifetime is lived will dictate whether the rate is raised or lowered. Karma is not seen as punishment, but rather as the fate we create for ourselves as a result of our actions in this and previous lives. We're not meant to suffer because of our misdeeds, but to learn from them and integrate what we've learned into our current life. In this view, evolution of the soul comes about through choice, making choices big and small, and experiencing the karmic effects of each choice. The soul evolves most effectively by facing and making choices as a separate individual, a distinct physical form. To do so, the soul incarnates. That is, the soul fuses with a human body for an entire lifetime, from birth to death. The soul undergoes the full range of meaningful human experiences and choices by incarnating into human form, since it can't have these experiences in the discarnate or disembodied form. In other words, a soul needs a body to have these experiences. Also, this theory holds that one human lifetime isn't enough to experience the whole gamut of life's circumstances and to make all choices. For example, the soul needs to experience life as both female, or male and female, as victim, perpetrator, as both student and teacher. Hence, the soul reincarnates many times over in order to experience the full spectrum of life, because it's only in human form that the soul can fully experience. So being human, again and again, with a different body and different life circumstances, each time enables the soul to experience the full range of possible perspectives and relationships and all the lessons that this entails. Through many different human experiences, the soul gradually becomes more self-aware, gradually discovers more of its true capabilities, and gradually learns how to overcome the illusory limitations of being physical. Generally, according to the classic concept, the soul learns best through a compare and contrast process, not through blind repetition. Therefore, any given lifetime may be completely different from the last one. From the soul's perspective or of view, or point of view, there's really little value in repeating the same kind of life again and again, unless, of course, there is a specific lesson within that life that's yet to be learned, or experience to be had that's yet to be experienced. In which case, the movie Groundhog Day would be an excellent metaphor. Each human lifetime is an opportunity to learn specific lessons or have specific experiences. One lifetime, for example, might focus on learning greater self-responsibility, while the next might focus on learning or being more empathetic to others. If in one lifetime the soul experiences being a wealthy individual who wields power and influence over others, it might then be of value to contrast that with the experience of living in poverty and powerlessness. Soul has no preference for one side of the equation or the other, since both sides help draw out different aspects of the soul. Now, this classic concept is, I think, best expressed in a short piece by the author Barry Benson. He used the following analogy in an attempt to explain the concept of karma as it relates to reincarnation. A small boy enters school and is placed by his teacher in the lowest class and charged with learning these lessons. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt do no hurt to any living thing. Thou shalt not steal. So the little boy grew into a man. He didn't kill, but he became cruel. Then he stole. At the end of the day, when his beard was gray, when the night had come, the teacher noted that although the student hadn't killed, he'd failed to learn his other lessons. Go back again tomorrow, the teacher told him. When the new day dawned, the pupil returned to school and was placed in a higher class because he had accomplished one lesson. Then his teacher gave him these lessons to learn. Thou shalt do no harm to any living creature. Thou shalt not cheat. Thou shalt not steal. Again, the boy grew into a man. He was careful to do no hurt to any living thing, and he tried not to be cruel. But he stole from his neighbors, and he cheated to accomplish his own ends. At the end of the day, when his beard was gray, when the night had come, the teacher recognized the fact that the student had learned to be merciful, but he had failed to accomplish other lessons. Once again, the student was told to return on the morrow. Well, so it may be with man. The Bible admonishes man to be perfect, even as God is perfect. But maybe such perfection can't be achieved in a single lifetime. According to this philosophy, it might seem more just to allow a person to return again and again and again and climb the ladder of soul evolution until all the lessons have been learned, or everything that can be experienced has been experienced. There's no longer a need or a reason to reincarnate, and the soul is ready, finally, to join in eternal union with the universal consciousness. That being said, however, karma is probably not what most people think it is. One school of thought holds that occurrences and deeds from past lives are neither unequivocally ordained, nor do they have an unequivocal consequence. And what I mean by this is that a deterministic, preordained view where action A always results in karmic consequence B doesn't seem to be the case. For example, some would think that if soul A murders soul B in one lifetime, then in a later lifetime, soul B will murder soul A. But karma isn't about cosmic justice or divine retribution. In the example I gave, being cited for driving 80 miles an hour in a 55-mile-per-hour zone, if you get caught, will result in a fine. But in the traffic court of karma, there may be no such rigidly defined consequences. Contrary to the deterministic interpretation of karma held by some, from the perspective of spirit, some would say that there's no need for cosmic justice because there's no such thing as cosmic injustice. Some argue that karma is really about entanglement. Entanglement is at the heart of quantum physics and may play a role in consciousness. I'm going to devote an entire program to consciousness, quantum physics, and its possible relation to reincarnation very soon. But for now, let's just say that, like other aspects of quantum science, the phenomenon of entanglement reveals itself at very tiny subatomic scales. When two particles, such as a pair of photons or electrons, become entangled, they remain connected even when separated by vast distances, even light years. In the same way that a ballet or a tango emerges from individual dances, entanglement arises from the connection between particles. In this view, from the standpoint of karma, if I do something in a physical life that violates your free will, we become entangled. We both feel the lack of equilibrium between us. It's like we've become tied together by a rope. In this view, the only way to restore equilibrium is to undo the entanglement by having you violate my free will in a similar way. That way, we both know from experience what it's like to be both the violator and the violated. So, in this scenario, karma may be thought of as a reaction to an action, a balance and a learning experience. It's the principle of cause and effect. Taken simply, it means that for every action, there is a consequence, and this applies to both good and bad deeds. However, karma in the classical sense of the word seems a very human idea. We love tit for tat, karmic comeuppance, divine justice, don't we? We want to think Hitler, Genghis Khan, Charlie Manson, Ted Bundy, and particularly the person who invented autocorrect, are getting their just desserts. Well, maybe, and then again, maybe not. As we know, one theory holds that those who do evil in this life will pay for their transgressions either in the afterlife through eternal hellfire and damnation, meted out by a stern God with a flowing white beard who looks suspiciously like Charlton Heston, or in the next life by undergoing what they inflicted on others in this life. The murderer is murdered, the torturer is tortured, the swindler is swindled, the cheater is cheated on, and so on. So, when we consider those who are suffering, they may actually be people who made others suffer in a previous lifetime. Now, the problem with statements like this is that they require objective morality or a specific entity to mete out the punishments. Who decides what's good or bad, what's punishable, and what isn't? And how would the evildoer even be punished after death when there'd no longer be a human consciousness or a body to feel the punishment? When would the punishment end, if at all? It would end, right? Certainly no crime is worth punishment forever. One theory holds that there is no accountability beyond what is called the life review. The life review is a moment-by-moment review of one's earthly incarnations conducted between lives. In this scenario, one experiences their life story as perceived by those with whom they interacted in that life. Meaning that if they caused someone hurt, they get to experience that hurt. Every one of them. But also, where they were a blessing to someone, they get to experience that feeling too, often to their surprise and amazement. Then we have those accounts of how everyone who has ever committed an act of evil will experience it on the flip side. During their life review, every rapist, killer, maimer experiences what it's like to be raped, killed, or maimed. And they see and feel it firsthand, as if they were the victim. Another theory holds that karma, at least in the classical retributive sense, is a con. And there is no more karma, negative or positive, attached to human life than there is for an actor portraying a movie villain or hero. Now, I can hear some of you right now. Blasphemy, abomination, hang 'em high, tar and feather 'em, run 'em out of town on a rail. Well, hear me out. Please, hear me out. I want you to think of the last film or stage play you saw where there were incredibly evil people doing incredibly evil things. Now, recall what happened when the lights came on, or when the curtain came down, or when the director called cut and the actors left the stage. No one chased after them or hauled them off to jail. I assure you, Sir Anthony Hopkins never spent one day in jail for making a delicious gourmet meal out of someone as Hannibal Lecter. They were playing the role of someone evil. Even the actors on stage know who they really are off stage. Actors. Many people naturally associate reincarnation with karma. But you see, there's no necessary linkage between these ideas. And many reincarnation belief systems do not include the philosophy of karma we know from Hinduism, Buddhism, and other Indic religions, and from theosophy. Since many religions and belief systems acknowledge reincarnation without karma, it seems clear that karma may not be a necessary corollary of reincarnation. But we can take the further step of asking whether we see evidence for karma operating in reincarnation cases. Maybe, just maybe, karma is a philosophical or religious idea without any scientific basis or foundation. Now consider this, if you will. Of the more than 2,500 cases he studied, Ian Stevenson, and I'm sure you're familiar with that name, learned of only 4 in which karma were even thought to be involved. And these, by the way, were cases with congenital physical abnormalities. Maybe we all go through the length and breadth of human experiences just to explore the human condition. Maybe on the other side, we shake hands, have a cocktail or 2 or 3 with those who we persecuted or who persecuted us, and talk about how we all played our individual roles and what we learned from them. To cite the words of the immortal bard, All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. Each has their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts. There's another view espoused by Jim Matlock. He's an American anthropologist and reincarnation researcher. He advanced a theory called the processual soul theory. Processual soul theory rejects retributive karma as an active mechanism, though it acknowledges what is called what he calls processual karma, which is the carryover of psychological dispositions and conflicts from one life to the next. We came into this life with a propensity for acquiring our negative habits, behaviors, attitudes, belief systems, paradigms, because of a past life situation or karma. Like a compromised immune system may leave us susceptible to colds or the flu. Another possibility is that the conditions or entanglements, remember that word, which a person perceives and tells about, are in their own mind and is essentially a metaphor, or it could be a subjective truth and evidence that we indeed, as some would assert, create our own reality. This life, the afterlife, and the next life. Who knows? If the insights the client gains from enlightenment and the recall of past life memories helps them be happier, more productive, more fulfilled, more understanding, empathetic, and compassionate in this life, then what's the difference? It's the outcome that really matters. So, to sum things up, what I said in the beginning about the conundrum of karma may be quite real, and its complexities may be vaster than anyone realizes, to the extent that not one size fits all. The old saw that we create our own karma may, I stress the word may, be truer than we even realize. I think I've given you enough to chew on for now. So a couple of things before we close. As most of you probably know, I also train students in how to conduct past life regression and therapy and become a board-certified past life regression therapist. For more than 40 years, I've been doing this in live classes and lately one-on-one online. I've been working on an online, on-demand, evergreen, as it's called, training program that looks like it's going to top out at 23 modules, a PDF training manual with scripts that'll be over 300 pages, more than 50 scripts, and also a bunch of extra peripheral material, which you'll need to do it right. Oh, by the way, you'll also get a full year's free mentorship from me thrown into the mix. I expect everything to come together and be ready for release in about 2 months. I also expect it to retail in the $3,000 range. In the meantime, I'm going to release what's known as a beta version as a test run to get feedback from students and also work out the inevitable bugs. It'll contain everything that's going to be in the final alpha version, along with board certification. I'm going to offer that to an initial group of 15 people for just $500 each, and I'm working out the logistical details of that. If this is something that might be of interest to you, that is becoming a full or part-time past regression therapist, or incorporating it into an existing business or profession, at $500 instead of $3,000, just for agreeing to complete the program and give me feedback about the beta version. And please drop me a line at either my email or direct message me, and I'll put you on the short list and get back to you when I'm ready to roll out that beta version, which should be in about a week or two after the Labor Day holiday coming up here in the U.S. In the meantime, I'll send over a working brochure to you since the web page is being designed as we speak and it isn't up just yet. Also, I'm now, as I said, simultaneously broadcasting this show in both the Facebook group Reincarnation, Past Lives, and the Afterlife, and in my Facebook fan page, Dr. Bruce Kolaski. You'll find a link to that here in the comments section. I'd greatly appreciate it if you could head on over there and give that page a follow and a like. Now on to our next show. It's scheduled for Wednesday, September 11th at 6 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Now that's 2 weeks from now. On that date, I'll be having a very special guest. My dear friend and colleague, Dr. Tony Riley, America's premier past life, or Australia's rather, premier past life regression specialist with over 20 years experience in the field, who also happened to be my first guest on this show a couple of months ago. She'll be joining me from Brisbane, Australia. Some of you may remember that Tony from a show she and I did several years ago, and again for a brief time last year. Tony has recently returned from a 3-week jaunt to the United Kingdom, where she attended the world-renowned mediumship and psychic sciences school, Arthur Findlay College in England, and also spent some time poking around some haunted castles. So, on that show, we're going to dive deep into the wildly misunderstood art of mediumship, its rise in popularity and powerful use in resolving trauma around death. Tony has promised to spill the beans on what goes on in a school for mediums. And maybe, if we twist her arm, she'll give us some tips about how to contact our dearly departed. And if I ask her nicely, she might even tell us a ghost story or two. With Tony, you never really know what's going to happen. So join Dr. Tony Riley and me in 2 weeks, 2 weeks from tonight, on Wednesday, September 11th at 6 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time for the sublime art of mediumship. And tell your friends about us. Remember, since this show is done within the Facebook group Reincarnation, Past Lives, and the Afterlife, they'll have to be a member to tune in. So until Wednesday, the 11th, and as always, this is Dr. Bruce wishing you happy hitchhiking and happy trails. See you in 2.